program.
What you talking about?
The program. The program. Get with the program.
Everybody clap to this. Say what?
Get with the program.
It starts now.
Hello and welcome to Get With The Program Radio Show. Get With The Program Radio Show is a multicultural, informative, relevant, and entertaining 1 hour weekly show offering you a combination of diverse interviews with questions and comments. And as always, we will act as a positive source of information. Now listen, if you want to be a guest on the show, all you have to do is log in to www.getwiththeprogram.biz. Shoot me an email, leave me a message. You never know. You may have a conversation we would love to talk about. Or you can give me a call at 919-255-2757. Again, the number is 919-255-2757. Listen, today we're going to be joined in the studio with Dr. Acquilla Faye, which is a transformational guide, aka Shifter, and she's a wonderful lady. I had a chance to talk with her about many things. But listen, her mission is to bring smiles and joy while assisting with balance and personal authenticity. She is an educator, author, and mentor, and has been led to lead others in transforming their lives through education, empowerment, entertainment, and elevation. So we're gonna have a wonderful show, and today our topic is releasing toxic people. This is gonna be good. Hello, Dr. Acquilla Faye. Welcome to Get With The Program Radio Show.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I know you are doing great things. I have so enjoyed all of the experts and community advocates that you have brought onto your show in order to elevate our community. And I'm honored to be amongst the greats. So thank you so much. And I'm so ready to talk about releasing these toxic people, especially right now in our lives. So that is so important.
They are some toxic people right here. You're absolutely right. It is a pleasure to have you on the show today because I know you're busy. I keep a watch, particularly on your social media. You stay busy. You got a lot of people following you. I've been watching you.
Yeah. I like to say staying productive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when we think about busy mentally, when we want to transform, the word busy implies like we just got a lot going on, don't know what's happening. When we think about productivity, it's more, we have a strategy happening, and we're just moving succinctly and consistently in the purpose and mission that God granted us.
Oh, that's important. Now that's important because there's always a mission somewhere. If it's not a mission that you have, you need to be finding out what your mission is and what your purpose is right away. All right, so yes, this is the definitely. Deal. Tell me about yourself, Acquilla. Where you from? What's going on with? Where you from? You from this area?
Man, I'm from a place called Ramcat, and I love letting people know Ramcat is no longer on the map. We talk about gentrification and all these things. It's an area in Raleigh, but on Tryon Road between Lake Wheeler and Gates Mill Pond Road.
Raleigh, North Carolina.
It used to be one of the wealthiest black areas in the Triad.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, the 80s happened, some things happened to, certain generations. And unfortunately, due to some of those epidemics that happened, the later generations sold their houses and the land, and they got gentrified. And that was just a part of Raleigh. But it was a community where there were sister churches, where people came together to fight on politics, had private meetings and gatherings, and ensured that the family and community stayed intact and that the city put lights on our streets, paved our roads, and ensured that the children were not separated. It was a beautiful way to grow up with a lot of farmland and money all in one place with people still being humble. So Ramcat, North Carolina.
All right, Ramcat. Okay, Ramcat, North Carolina. I like that. All right, so listen, we're talking about releasing toxic people. Now, that sounds really dirty. When you hear something say toxic, it's got to be bad. So when we say toxic people, what are we talking about? What's a toxic person?
So toxic is things that are damaging to your well-being, that cause confusion in your psyche, may cause some emotional instability. And in a different way, it just got you tripping on yourself, questioning yourself. And you like, hold up, what's really going on? You go around and you go in there happy and you leave out sad. You go around, all of a sudden you mad, you don't even know why. You was having a good day.
Toxic.
They just bring a lot of weight into your life.
Well, let me
you just feel heavy. You're like, whoa, how I get this heavy?
Well, yeah. Dr. Acquilla, let me ask you this now. How do we know, how can we recognize or the signs that we look for in recognizing a toxic person? How do we recognize a toxic person?
So a couple of ways to recognize a toxic person. One, if you always feel like that person in your partner. So we got different levels of relationships, right? So let's start there. Because sometimes you might be the toxic person in your life. So I just want to acknowledge that. Then you got the people that's close to you. Then you got what I'm going to call third party. That could be people at work, in the community, at the gas station, things like that. So one of the key things in recognizing toxicity in a relationship is that you're not heard. It seems like every conversation or interaction is a fight. Whatever you perceive a fight to be, that is what it feels like, and that is what you interpret yourself to be engaging in. So, for example, you might say, "Oh man, I really want to take a walk," and somebody might say, "Well, ain't nothing wrong with that, but you know it's raining." First off, they just made you think that taking a walk is right or wrong. Secondly, they just told you a reason not to take a walk. But what they never did was ask you, "Well, why do you want to take a walk? Where would you like to walk? How long would you like to take a walk for?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to go with you?" They don't inquire about you. Everything is about them. It's almost like dealing with a narcissist or a selfish person or a spoiled child or a closed-minded individual. You can use any of them terms. But at the end of the day, they not hearing you, they not seeing you, they not feeling you, and nor do they care to.
Now, let me ask you this. Is focusing on yourself, and your journey, is that an important part of releasing toxic?
Now, when we say focusing on yourself, one thing we have to keep in mind is this. Focusing on yourself can be healthy as long as you're not doing it to the point where you become toxic to others. When you say, okay, I know my purpose, I know my mission, I set my schedule, and you guard your time, right? So that you can continuously be productive and consistent versus being defensive. Look, you can't tell me what to do. I know that I'm supposed to do this. Okay, you being toxic because you yourself don't believe your purpose. So now when you actually, to yourself, believe in yourself and know yourself and have built a relationship with yourself and God, yes, that's a very positive thing. And it will help you to identify other healthy relationships. If you find yourself being defensive, that's when you have to realize you are being toxic to yourself and others, because in that situation, you're repelling those who may be there to assist you.
Now, should we at some point accept and allow toxic people? Because, sometimes things that could be bad for us, we can figure a way to make them good. So should we at some point accept and allow toxic people?
That is such a powerful question. That really is. In that regard of accepting toxicity, I'm going to say you should never accept poison. Like, never. In the same token, depending on where you're at in your journey, it is a necessary part of the journey. Mm-hmm. So it's not about accepting it like saying it's okay or it's healthy for me, being deceptive about it. It's more the acknowledgement. I would say it's more important to acknowledge that toxic people do arise in our lives to show us things about ourselves, to teach us things about our skill set. The way I like to explain it to people is life is a spiral. So in that spiral, right, you have person A, B, C. Person A may be funny. Person B may be very rational. And person C may be very gentle. As you evolve, person A, B, C disappear and another A, B, C come in. It's more evolved and able to be relatable to where you're at. Now, if you yourself are not progressing, the funny person might come in as a sarcastic person. Mm-hmm. That caring person might come in as a smothering person. And that rational person may come in as a denouncing person because you yourself have not developed your foundation, your awareness, your relationship and foundation with God. So in those situations, it can do a couple of things. It can put you in a lower state of being because you just decide to settle and not grow. That would be what I call acceptance. I would say you should avoid doing that.
Mm-hmm.
As far as it's accepted.
I tell you what we're gonna do. Tell you what we're gonna do, Dr. Keto. What we're gonna do? Hold that thought right there. What we're gonna do? We're gonna take a break. I want to come back and finish that conversation. Should we at some point accept and allow toxic people? That's a good point. So we're gonna take a break, and we come back. We're gonna talk more here with Dr. Acquilla Faye, transformational guide, aka the Shifter. Her mission is to bring smiles and joy while assisting with balance and personal authenticity. She is an educator, author, and mentor, and has been led to lead others in transforming their lives through education, empowerment, entertainment, and elevation. Listen, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after this. Hello and welcome back to Get With The Program Radio Show. Again, I'm your host, Gary Jones. Now listen, today we're joined here with Dr. Acquilla Faye, transformational guide, aka the Shifter. Again, her mission is to bring smiles and joy while assisting with balance and personal authenticity. She is an educator, author, and mentor, and has been led to lead others in transforming their lives through education, empowerment, entertainment, and elevation. So once again, welcome back, Dr. Acquilla. Welcome back.
Thank you. This has been such a powerful conversation.
Yes.
Where we left off, I was like,
oh yeah, we left off again. We were talking about, should we at some point accept and allow toxic people?
Sometimes we think about acceptance as an allowance. It's like, oh, I deserve this. Oh, I should go through this. Oh, there's nothing better. So I want to be very cautious with the word acceptance and allow, and say it's more about the perception and understanding the purpose in which this toxic person or toxic situation serves in our lives. So we're talking about the ABC. And with the ABC, it's recognized, okay, why is this funny person now sarcastic? Mm-hmm. And we have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, did I start joking about my own ambition? Did I start joking about my own characteristics and attributes? Because now I'm drawing that to me. Do I like treating myself that way? So this person may be a reflection, and most times is, of either what you're currently doing to yourself or what you have grown past that you haven't recognized. I want to say it again, what you have grown past that you didn't recognize. What you have outgrown that you didn't even realize. See, sometimes they're a lesson to teach you what to do, and sometimes they're the review to show you what you already mastered.
When it comes to love, does love for a toxic person and the desire for their happiness, does that outweigh the attachment to them? You know, because people love people. Some people be in love with toxic people and desire their happiness. Does that outweigh being attached to them?
I'll tell you a story. So, you know, a lot of times people want to tell everybody what to do, and they go, oh, they must live the perfect life. Let me do that. I had a person. I really, really adored this young person. I was like, woo. But this man was just toxic. He couldn't even help it. He just came from a background that was dysfunctional, to be honest. What was rational was irrational. Peace felt uneasy to this person. It was just like, and I've seen a lot of people in the community who are like that. They're just so used to chaos that peace is disturbing, you know? And it doesn't mean they don't have potential, intelligence, or a heart for others. They just never been taught or shown that there's another way to achieve a goal. They don't realize that you can actually have peace in life. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just gonna be here. I'm just gonna keep loving this person. But when it got to the point where basic conversations became confrontational, you know, when it got to the point where a laugh turned into an argument, it was like, whoa, no. And I would literally just walk off. Person would get upset. I was like, that's okay. That's okay that this person gets upset. Because my boundary, my love for myself, my healthiness for myself will not be disturbed because somebody else doesn't understand how to be healthy. So when a person accepts unhealthy behavior, it's because in that moment, we're not treating ourselves in a healthy manner. Now, see, when I didn't treat myself in a healthy way, I remember waking up as a young girl to bruises from my neck down to my waist. Couldn't remember how they got there.
You said bruises?
Remember the end. At that time, I was probably like in my early 20s, like around 21-ish. So we're talking about over a decade and a half ago. And I just love this man. I'm like, oh my God, girl, like, no, he loved me. And there's a lot of people that's older. I have people now that call me in their 70s and their 30s, 40s, 50s who are in these toxic type of relationships where they're going through those experiences that I had in my 20s. And reminding them, and this is for men too, if a person is hurting you, if a person is causing you to become depressed, if a person is causing you to move slower in your life, if a person is causing you to question every action that you have, even down to going to the bathroom and how you use the toilet paper, this is not something you need to hold on to. Now, it can be a little scary walking away because you've dealt with it. So if it got to that point, it's a very nerve-wracking situation. And at that point, you need to reach out to some healthy people in your life. If you have been isolated, there are still phone numbers you can call. There are still helplines you can call to get out of those situations. You need to get out of those situations because now they went from toxic to dangerous. So on a basic level, the toxic is just like, it's not helping you. It's not benefiting you. When toxicity has been there for a long time, it becomes dangerous and it can kill you. So you got to be aware of how you feel about yourself, and you have to have a relationship with God in order to allow yourself to even recognize what you're in and whom you are dealing with.
And that was going to be one of my questions. Is having God in your relationship, was that very important? You've already answered that. I do want to ask you: is being toxic is it contagious? Is that something that's contagious?
All right. Have you ever noticed when you yawn and somebody around you, what do the next person do?
They yawn too.
Right. When you start laughing, people don't know why you're laughing. What they do too?
They laugh for some reason, or they smile.
You start running, and you just run. Don't nobody know why. What they gonna do?
They're gonna take off.
There you go. So human nature behavior is contagious. It's up to you what you decide to spread. So if you go out there and you smile, people will smile. If you give a compliment, they'll give you a compliment back. If you're helpful, most times even the meanest person will try to do something to be helpful as well. So human behavior in itself is a repetitive act of what we see and what we feel. It's just the neurons in our bodies, in our brains, and our signals that allows us to replicate. That's why you have some people who always have something positive to say and some who always complain. If you look at the circle of friends that are around, you'll notice, dang, everybody in their circle complain all the time. You look at another circle, everybody in their circle always writing books. Like in my circle, people be, oh man, they don't go 10 books. I feel like I'm behind because I only got 5. You get what I'm saying? So it's like your circle replicates you. So yes, it is contagious.
Wow.
But it is a decision that's made with the self first.
Now, when it comes to toxic people, should we expect them to change? Because sometimes people, they get a certain age in life, you can't change them. I mean, some people, they just not ready to change. Should we expect them to change?
I would ask one, do you expect yourself to change? My personal belief is we shouldn't expect anything from a person other than for them to be who they are. Expect people to do what we want them to do. To me, that is a form of control. And for those who have children, nieces, nephews, or just have been around other people, you cannot make a person do anything. You can suggest, you can guide, you can support, you can encourage, but you cannot make a person do anything. And I think when we set expectations for someone to change a behavior or do something, we're setting ourselves up for a huge disappointment because our expectation is based on what we think they can do and should do. And we don't know what's going on truly in their spirit and their mind. We don't truly know their background. The same amount of time it would take to fully get to know somebody is the same amount of years they've been alive. And people have to be willing to say to themselves, I want something different in life. And if that person says, I want something different in life, and they are teachable and coachable, meaning they're willing to learn new skills, they're willing to go to new environments, they're willing to be exposed to new information and things like that. You're not expecting them to change, you're just supporting them in their own decisions. But if you're trying to force it, that's just like, would we want someone to force us to be what they want us to be?
That's some good points there. Now, we're going to take another break here. And I want to say, when we come back, I want to ask you, should we establish and maintain boundaries? Once we find out who this toxic person is, or even if we don't even know who they are, should we establish and should we maintain our boundaries? Because we got to protect ourselves. But listen, we're going to take a break and we're going to be right back after this. Hello and welcome back to Get With The Program Radio Show. Again, I am your host, Gary Jones. Now listen, today, as I said before, we are joined today with Dr. Acquilla Faye, who's a transformational guide, aka the Shifter. Her mission is to bring smiles and joy while assisting with balance and personal authenticity. She is an educator, author, and mentor, and has been led to lead others in transforming their lives through education, empowerment, entertainment, and elevation. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Acquilla. Welcome back.
Thank you. You are asking some very intense questions. The questions you are asking, let me be honest, are questions that people get when they enter into my coaching program. Like, these are the things, like on a surface level, it sounds like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But going through the process of being able to apply it takes so many other steps and so much practice and support and healing, a lot of anger and crying and realization. So I'm thankful that you're asking these questions that help people to at least start the process within themselves, to start evaluating, where am I at? What am I doing with my life, and how am I looking at my life? And what are some things I can do right now to possibly change the trajectory of where I'm going or amplify the wonderfulness that's already happening?
And that's why it's
So
good.
I appreciate you for that.
Absolutely. That's why it's good when maintaining boundaries. We have to maintain boundaries because everybody has a limit. They have a limit. You know, there's comes a point in your life when you become a certain age when you're just not going to put up with no more of the crap, you know, so there's certain boundaries. And you kind of touched on it a lot. I do want to ask you this, Hero. Is toxic, is that a trait from a family? Is that a trait, or is that just something somebody just grow on? It just something just happens to them, or is it contagious? I mean, we talked about that. How does somebody become toxic?
So I'm going to go back to your first question before the break about establishing and maintaining boundaries, and then I'm going to bring that into it.
Okay.
So with our boundaries, oftentimes people are not taught boundaries. Think about a child. We're told what to do, when to do it, how to do it. If we don't do what we're supposed to do, when we're supposed to do it, how we're supposed to do it, typically there's a consequence, whatever that consequence is. When we do what we're supposed to do, there's another consequence. So consequences can be positive. They can make us feel really good, make us smile, or consequences can be negative and make us reflect and not feel so good about what we decided to do. So as we continue to gain our independence and we have more responsibility for our own well-being, we have a tendency to replicate the behaviors that were shown to us as youth. So you hear a lot of foster kids who talk about some similarities in themselves about expecting instability, which is equivalent to military children. Instability, moving a lot, always making friends, or maybe not making friends. Then you have those people who were like they stayed in the same house, the same neighborhood, had a lot of stability, but then maybe things within the household weren't as structurally sound, or maybe the community wasn't as structurally sound, right? So they end up looking for those things and replicating those things subconsciously because that has been the foundation of their understanding of this world. This is how the world works. This is how people talk. This is how they engage. This is how, I take care of myself. This is what I need to do. The boundaries come, again, as you begin to develop a relationship with God and yourself. You got to know yourself. You got to know what you like, what you don't like, who you are, how you think, how you perceive things. Not what society and social media is putting out there and you just going with the flow, but like, how do you really feel? Is that particular issue even important to you? It may be important, but it might not be important to you. And being comfortable with that. Like, you got to be very comfortable with your role in society and in yourself, within your household. If you're not comfortable within yourself, you can't even set a boundary, first off, because you're always going to be like a leaf in the wind, blowing in whatever direction comes at you. When you establish that boundary, you go from being the leaf on a branch to being the roots underneath the ground.
It's
Is
really
it a trait?
Yeah, the trait is. I was going to the trait. Is it really a trait, or is this somebody? Is it a hereditary effect for a person being toxic?
Yeah, in that sense, I'm going to say part of that is cultural. Because you have people who believe in generational curses. I am one of those people who believe that patterns are passed down genetically because it's what your family has done. You know, that's your particular family, your particular village, your particular community. So how can you not be what you've been surrounded by? You see what I'm saying? But just like anything, when you expose yourself to other communities, other families, other villages, you start to see new things. You're like, hold up. I didn't even know there was something called an orange. I only thought they were apples and pears. But I like this orange. You got to peel it, even though you don't peel apples and pears. But peeling don't take it. It's not as hard as I thought it was. Same with behavior. I always thought people had to talk over each other. And I thought the person who was the loudest is the one who gets heard. Though I observed that nobody really heard anybody. Then you get around people who actually take time to close their mouth, hear what somebody else has to say, share their opinion, the other person gives some feedback, and you see this back and forth, and they're not raising their voice. And you notice, wow, they both heard each other, and they came to an agreement. And the agreement wasn't even to agree to disagree. The agreement was, oh, I respect your viewpoint. You think that upper class should be taxed? I think lower class should be taxed. I don't agree with you for these reasons. However, I get where you're coming from. And it's just a mutual respect. But if you haven't seen that, you don't know that it exists, and you don't know how to exhibit that trait. Because traits are based on mindset, patterns, and action.
How do we deal with a toxic person, a toxic family member? You know, now we're touching home now. Somebody in your family that's toxic and they in need of something. They're asking for something. You know they're toxic. And you know they're keeping stuff always stirred up, because you know everybody got that one person in the family that like to just keep something stirred up. I mean, everybody got somebody. I know people listen now. Everybody got somebody in their family that like to keep a bunch of mess stirred up, you know, all the time. So how do you deal with that person? You know the person is toxic, but now this person is coming to you in need of something. How do you deal with that?
Sometimes that toxic person is the person that's saying who toxic. If you're looking around and saying, well, who is the toxic person in the family? It might be you. If every time you come to the cookout, people throw their hands up, it really might be you, baby girl. It might be you, bro. Like, you might be the one. So first, let's look at ourselves and say, am I always complaining? You know, do I always have a problem? You know, am I always trying to fix something? My favorite behavior that I see in people, not my favorite in the sense of I like it, but as far as consistency that I've seen amongst clients that I have, is this victim mentality of, I call it manipulation, emotional manipulation, where it's like, oh my God, I bought you this and you should take it because I bought it. No, I don't have to accept it. You cannot make me accept it. Or you have to be there for me because I said it. No, I don't have to be there for you because I had to go to work. You know, trying to force your needs onto somebody else, right? So let's identify that and say, is it me first? Once we do that, if you're not that person, then you can look around and say, okay, who in my family does that? Who always wants to control every situation? Who always has to have the ball in their hand? Who always is the one telling everybody where to go, what time to be there? Who always is the one that starts yelling or crying or fussing all the time? I ain't talking about sometimes, because we all have feelings and emotions, and you need to acknowledge those. That's okay. That's actually very healthy. Acknowledge your feelings. The problem comes in when these feelings are extremely consistent, meaning not just once every now and then, like once, I even say once a week, you know, but like 3-4 times a week for months, for years. You know, Billy Mad and Andy from 20 years ago. You're like, do you remember what the argument was? I don't know. Then they pass it down to the kids, pass it down to other people. And every time there's a family gathering, they talking about this argument that they don't even remember what happened.
Right.
You know, every
Absolutely.
time. Every time.
Yeah, you ever had
They always complain about the food.
Exactly.
So
I was going to say that. I always have something to say. You know, you ever had a family member that would always want to bring up old stuff back in the day, stuff that's always, it's just always create an argument. Let me ask you this. Should we care about the feelings of a toxic person? I mean, because we know everybody has feelings, and if we recognize this person as being toxic, now should we let them know? Should we say something to them? Or should we more care about their feelings? Or could it be more of a mental approach in this person?
And see, that's one of the things where I have to say there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of variables. As much as in America, we like to say things are black and white. It's just for that.
Well, I tell you what. I tell you what we're gonna do. I want to hear that answer. We're gonna take a break. We're running time to the second segment. We're gonna take a break. When we come back, we're gonna hear that answer. That's gonna be good. I can't wait to hear that one. Listen, we're gonna take a break. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after this. Hello and welcome back to Get With The Program Radio Show again. Today we're joined here with Dr. Acquilla Faye, and we're having some good conversations. But listen, before we took the break, I asked Dr. Acquilla, should we really care about the feelings of a toxic person?
We should care about all people. Like just on a basic level, like getting back to the humanism of life. Social media has us so disconnected from really relating to each other, taking the time to feel each other, taking the time to understand each other, that it can be real easy to dismiss somebody. You know, it can be so easy to say, why are you calling me? Or you text me 3 times this month. That's a lot. You know, the way society is set up and how fast information is coming. You know, we got multiple generations existing at one time. We got a group of people where the encyclopedias were updated every 100 years, mixed with generations where information is updated every 5 seconds. So we have to understand that there is an information overload that's occurring. And within that, there's some separations that are occurring and confusions that are occurring and overwhelmment that's occurring. So yes, you should care about all people, toxic and non-toxic. And I want to be clear, when we say toxicity, we're not saying the person themselves are toxic. I'm saying the behavior of the person are toxic. The way they express themselves is toxic. But that person themselves is still a person that has feelings and experiences and may not have received support on how to express themselves in a healthy way that is not damaging towards others.
Let me ask you this. Could we say that a toxic person, would you say that's a condition? Is that a mental condition? Does it perhaps sometimes need medication?
I personally don't believe in medication. However, I will say that sometimes it is a mental issue of chemical imbalances. Think about a malnutrition child. If that child is in malnutrition, then they don't have the nutrients they need to develop proper brain functioning and body functioning. So that same malnutritious child becomes an adult that still lacks the same things they needed. So they cannot help but lack what they don't have because they never received it. And so when we look at it from that standpoint, yes, sometimes it is medical. Then in some situations, so you might need medication for that. You might need some supplements, some vitamins, things of that nature in order to assist with that because that is a chemical imbalance. There are some things there in that sense. Now, when we talk about emotional well-being, ways of relating, socialization, and things of that nature, those are more behavior. So behavior cognitive therapy, that's one of my favorite methodologies because what it does, it teaches people how to examine situations and to learn various ways to deal with the same thing. So, for example, if you went to the store and every time somebody jumps in front of you and lies, instead of cussing them out in behavior cognitive therapy, you discuss, well, what are some other things you could do other than cuss that person out? You could say, excuse me. You could not say anything. You could tap them on the shoulder. You could write a sign and keep it in your pocket and pull it out. I mean, you just go through all the possibilities, right, of different behaviors that you could do to be more responsive and less reactive. So sometimes it's about behavior therapy and teaching people that there are other behaviors that are options for what they can do. You teach them how to look at these behaviors and modify them. And then in other cases, some people just don't care about other people. At some point in your life, you gotta just accept that. Like, you know, this person don't care about nobody. They selfish. You gotta just evaluate that. And the only way to do that is to, depending on the radius of closeness they are to you, you can make that decision. I would say in a third party type of situation, you know, I wouldn't spend too much energy trying to, you know, change someone's behavior or evaluate all this. Just do what's best to get the job done and focus on the objective and be respectful. Mm-hmm. If it's a personal relationship, family, lover, friend, all that, and you actually know this person, you know their background and things like that, I would say first step is do take time and let them know this is how you make me feel. You know, this is what's going on. Give them the opportunity. And if they let you know I don't care, or if someone told me before, you want me to do what you want me to do for you, and I can't do that. It's like, okay, you want me to respect you, but you can't respect me. When that happens, you yourself got to decide you love yourself enough. Walk away from that.
I've been in some situations where maybe you have too. You ever been in a situation where you can be among a group of people and you see this toxic person coming in the direction that the group of people that you're involved with, they're coming. So everybody said, "Oh Lord, here comes someone.
Yeah.
Here comes such and such, man. Oh Lord, here they come. We got to. Oh man, we got to go." The question I have about that: should we embrace the toxic as a possible knowledge of keeping your enemy close? Because some people say if you have an enemy, sometimes it's best to say, "Come on in, toxic person," because you got some negative stuff to say, and you might very well be my enemy. Should we keep that person close to us?
In that sense, I would say, one, we got to determine just because they're toxic doesn't make them your enemy. For instance, you might have that uncle who always talk mess, always, but be dropping a whole lot of wisdom. Just the way he go about the delivery is a little hard to take. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you might only talk to that uncle like once every 3 months, because you just like, yo, when I talk to Uncle Jed, I just 30 minutes, I'm good for 3 months of my life. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But he ain't against you. You just don't know how to be positive about a thing. You see?
Okay.
Then there's other people who are your enemy and they are attacking you. Like they intend to attack you. That is their purpose, and that is what they're going about. I don't think you should keep someone who's attacking you around you when you can focus on the people who are protecting you. So if you are surrounded by those who protect you, honestly, the people who want to attack, they're going to turn around and you're just going to see their back. You won't have to worry about them.
Good point.
Because they're going to realize you're surrounded by so much love and positivity and upliftment that it's going to make them sick. So they're going to make a decision. Do I change my ways so that I can be a part of this circle? Because it looked kind of fun over there and I really want to have fun. I just never knew it was possible. And if that's what they're doing, I would say embrace that person because they're trying. And we all have things that we need to work on. We all have what I call our shortcomings, and we all have areas that we can improve. So let's not judge somebody because their area of improvement is more out. Now, if that person is really just sitting up here and their intention every single time is to cut you down, cut people down, bring people down, you might want to stop embracing them and stuff.
Let me ask you this. We're getting close to our ending here. Are there any exercises? Because I know you're into meditation, you're into different kind of vibes. So are there any exercises that people can do to release the pressure of toxic energy?
How much time we got before we go into our break?
And we only got about maybe another 30, 35 or 40 seconds for the show.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to tell you this. Intentional breathing, meaning set your mind on your breath. So breathe in your mouth, hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, let it out your nose. It resets because what you're doing is paying attention to the breath going in your mouth, and then you're forcing it to come out your nose. So you're resetting yourself, you're recalibrating yourself, which allows you those few seconds, those few moments to reevaluate a situation because you can't control them, but you can control you.
Good point. I know we're running out of time. Now, one last question here. When a toxic person come around me, and perhaps maybe you, should somebody just tell them sometime to just shut up? Should we be mean about it? Say, listen, man, just go ahead with that. Ain't nobody trying to hear all this. Just shut up. Or just should we just let them continue to vent?
This is my favorite. I love that question. I love people asking this. I don't think there's a such thing as being mean unless that's your intention. Most of the time, you're grown. As adults, if you bring in drama, I have the right to tell you to keep your drama to yourself. The same way they bring in that drama and think I'm supposed to embrace it or you supposed to embrace it, you got the same right to say, look, I'm not about that drama or those problems. If that's what you're about, keep that with yourself. Go over there with that. I'm not going to deal with that. I'm hanging up the phone. I'm walking away. Mm-hmm. You do not have to accept toxic behaviors from a person just because they present them.
Wow.
And people don't have to accept it from you either just because you present them. You have a right and you have a choice. Always remember, you have a choice.
Wonderful.
So you're grown.
Wonderful. Dr. Acquilla Faye, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much today. I really appreciate you being here. Dr. Acquilla, if somebody want to talk to you, how can they get some good information from you? Just like what we're talking about now. Suppose somebody want to ask you some questions. Can we get in contact with you?
Man, everything is my name. ACQUILLAF is in faithful. AYE. Follow me on IG. You can follow me on Facebook. Mm-hmm. That's also my Gmail. And that's my website, Acquilla Faye. If you forget that, just Google me.
That's good.
Acquilla Faye.
Oh, you're out there. That's good information. Acquilla Faye, thank you so much, Dr. Acquilla Faye, for being here today. Once again, we was joined today with Dr. Acquilla Faye. Her mission is to bring smiles and joy while assisting with balance and personal authenticity. She is an educator, author, and mentor, and has been led to lead others in transforming their lives through education, empowerment, entertainment, and elevation. Doc, we're going to have to bring you back, and we're going to talk about them books you put out, because you have put out a couple of books, too. But listen, once again, thank you for being here today. We got to get out of here, run out of time. So once again, Dr. Faye, thank you for being here. And this is going to about do it for Get With The Program Radio Show. As I always say, stay positive, keep your head up, and remember to
Get with the program.
What you talking about?
The program. The program. Get with the program.
Everybody clap to this. Say what?
Get with the program.
It starts now.